Okay, it's the Linux Umask command. Sorry, Umask command. So when you create a new file in Linux or Unix, it's going to be given a default set of permissions, right? When you are the user, the owner of the system, if you create a new file, you're going to be given all the permissions. But then but for all the other users, that is the group in which you are and anyone else, there's going to be some setting in the system that defines what the default permissions are on that file for those other users. Now, how do you modify that? You have to use the umask command. The output from the umask command can be represented in two formats. It can be in the octo format, or it can be the octo representation, or it can be the symbolic representation. Now this is the octo representation. Since I am the owner of the system, when I create a new file, I'm going to get all permissions. Therefore, my field is going to be blank. This here is blank, meaning I have all permissions on this file. Now, since this is a regular file, I don't have the execute permission since I can't execute a regular file. Now, the others, the group and everyone else, is a 2 and a 2. What does that mean? The total permissions for every file, if you sum them up, it's going to be a 7. There's a 4 for the read permission, there's a 2 for the write permission, and there's a 1 for the execute permission. Now if we have a 2 here, you get a 7, which is the total permissions, minus 2. 7 minus 2 is 5. Which are those permissions? Which when you add those their values, you get a 5. It's 4 plus 1, right? That is a read and execute, which means if we try to print out the default permissions in a more understandable format, we're going to get an RX, and that's what we have here. That's the same output. This here is the same as this, it's just a different representation, but I've explained how it comes to RX. So the group has read and execute permissions, others have read and execute permissions, I have read, write, execute permissions. But since this is not an executable, we could as well say they only have read permissions. But you get the point. So you could modify these defaults. When invoked with an octo parameter, the mask is updated to the provided value. So for example, here umask 0 0 0 7. What does that do? This sets it so that I get all permissions on a newly created file. This sets it so that the group gets all the permissions as well, and this sets it so that everyone else gets nothing at all. That is 7 minus 7 is a 0. That's why he has no permissions. He has read, write, execute, he, she, just looking at that. I have all permissions as well. So that's what the 0 0 0 7 does. Now if I did something like this, I've, by doing that, taken away the execute permission. Have I? Because it's now 7 minus 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. I think I have. Let's run that, find out what the output is. Yeah, I've taken away the execute permission. It works. Yeah. Now, right there, I have numbers and which permissions they would modify if you use those numbers for setting the umask value. But anyways, that's it for the umask command. You could switch from using octo values to modify the default permissions to using something more understandable like this. For example, umask a plus r allows for read permission for all users, and the rest of the mask is unchanged. You could as well take away some permissions from a user, prohibit execute permissions from all users. A is for all users. The rest of the mask is left unchanged. Read plus write, give all users read and write permissions. And that's it. Simple. Adios.